welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards. Hello everyone, and thank you for listening to another D3D4 Football Podcast. Many of you, I'm sure, have been with us for many episodes, many seasons now, but for our new listeners, those who have just joined us recently, let's give you just a bit of background information about what we are. We are a League 1 and League 2 website and podcast. We cover only Division 3, Division 4, hence the name D3D4 Football. We are run by fans on a voluntary basis. The cliche is run by fans for fans, but essentially that is exactly what we are. And the aim really was to give a better and more insightful coverage to the bottom two divisions of English football, which hardly get anything. And I hope that people will agree that we've gone a fair way to managing to achieve that. It's been interesting following the trials and many tribulations, it has to be said, of teams at this level. We've still got a couple of clubs in real crisis, which we will discuss, I'm sure, throughout the next few episodes of this podcast. We do ask if people can afford to support us on our patron campaign. We ask for as little as 80p a month for you guys to help us continue to run the website, run the podcast, and obviously dedicate as much time as we can to bringing you a more insightful and knowledgeable background into League 1 and 2 football. Hopefully this season we'll be bringing you interviews as well with some players and managers. And of course, we want to get out now with our new YouTube channel and have a bit of fun, get a bit of footage, and maybe a bit of interesting content that will go up on the channel shortly. Got some vlogs going up later on today. So, and one of those was done by my very able podcast co-host Chris Stringer. How you doing, Chris?
Well, yeah, I've been better on the football front, but personally I'm all right. Yeah.
Yeah. I was having to work all day yesterday. I didn't finish until about 8:30. So, trying to sort of cover the Premier League for work and also keep abreast of everything that was happening in League 1 and 2. It was great though, to be honest, to see Oxford beat Peterborough. You know, we've got 4 points from the first two fixtures, and obviously the news that our manager signed a new 3-year deal. We'll come to that as we go through. And in fact, let's jump in because we've got a lot to go through again this morning. And we start as always with our League 1 roundup.
League 1.
And I don't know where to start really. It's always tricky because every fan will want to hear their team discussed, but I think it's apt and prudent perhaps to just discuss Coventry's 0-0 draw with Bolton. Quite surreal to see a bunch of basically 19-year-olds, average age of 19, Bolton Wanderers, no senior players playing because of the disagreements over backdated pay not being given. I mean, it's a real mess. Phil Parkinson coming out and basically telling Bassini to do one, and I frankly could rant about this because I'm quite, it's boiling up inside me, and it has been for quite a few months now, about just how people outside of football getting involved have no right to do so. Often no knowledge, they don't have the best interests of the people, the fans.
Bassini's bizarre. He turns up waving documents around saying, "Oh, I love Bolton." It's like, behave. If you love Bolton, let them get on with their takeover. Let them
sees a
actually
business opportunity, doesn't he? He sees that there's a big club.
What a terrible businessman you have to be to go to a football club and you go, yeah, money to be made here. There's no money to be made in buying a football club. You're an idiot if you think you can make money off it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it, really? But they put in a very creditable performance on the pitch. And Coventry, they've got Matt Godden, and we're thinking, this is them now going to kick on. But it was just, this is typical Coventry. I don't think there's any result I've seen and any sort of match I've seen that sort of personifies and typifies a team like this one did for Coventry, because they had 3 goals disallowed. They had 67% of the possession. I don't know how many shots they had. I think it was like high mid-20s, something like that.
24.
Yeah, and
only 7 on target though.
Yeah, that's pretty poor actually. But I mean, they've got to win this game. It's almost a bye. It's a gimme. Wickham took full advantage.
Yeah, and Bolton expect to lose, don't they? Their fans are going to games to support the kids that they're putting out, but they expect absolutely nothing from their game. and credit where credit's due to the Bolton players, they really put a shift in. But Coventry really need to look at themselves and think, how have they essentially lost to Bolton's youth team?
Yeah.
Drawn with Bolton's youth team.
It feels like a loss, though, doesn't it? When you know that's 3 points in the bag. That could be so important come the end of the season. I saw a Coventry fan reply to our attendances saying, "I feel like I should die." I think it summed it up slightly dramatically, but indeed it was a performance where I think Coventry will be so bitterly disappointed. But massive credit to Bolton, massive credit to their fans and all of those who travelled to Adams Park last week. I really want to see this club and Bury, of course, survive and get through these difficult times. But frankly, these people coming in from outside of football, I don't know what their interests are. I suppose a lot of it is down to they feel there's a reflected glory on them. They have big egos. Football could do without you. There's enough egos in football, frankly, on the pitch.
James, so many football clubs are owned by such modest people.
Yes, of course they are. Yeah, really modest people. It's depressing. It really is. Just really hope this situation gets solved. Phil Parkinson, a player from his Reading playing days, I absolutely love. What a player he was.
He's the perfect manager for them at the moment as well. He's just shielding the players so well.
He's a top guy as well.
The way he deals with the press is so diplomatic, so calm. Just we've been given this bad hand of cards, but we've got to get on with it. And credit where credit's due to him, it's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant stuff from Phil Parkinson. What a player he was, and what a manager he continues to be. So the big result of the day, the one that I was on the BBC Radio Lincolnshire Hope and Glory show on Friday, and we were talking about Lincoln v Rotherham. Well, they went there, they had to ride their luck at times, but they got a 2-0 win. Another clean sheet on the board. Very impressive. Ian Bradley, go and read his report on our website, our roving reporter. We might have some footage from him available later. I'm not quite sure yet. We have got some ideas for our roving reporter to do some really good, insightful vlogging going throughout the season. But he went to this one. He's a Rotherham fan, Rotherham correspondent for the site. Really good, enthusiastic and knowledgeable man about his club and about League 1 and 2 football. And I have to say, he wrote a very good report, a very even report about this game. Very impressed with how Lincoln are efficient. I spoke to him on the phone yesterday, and he was basically saying they really, they have a squad that are fully together. They've been playing, as you can tell when you watch them, for a couple of seasons with each other mostly, and they're really well organised. They don't break down easily. They're very efficient going forward. They score goals and take their opportunities when they come. A 2-0 win. He said they deserved it, but I think as well he was frustrated that Rotherham did fritter away the chances that they themselves made. But a fantastic result for Lincoln, a great support again. 2,300 Imps fans were there. But brilliant to see them doing well. And I still maintain, I know they rode their luck in this game, but you're not going to play a team of Rotherham's quality every week. But what you have to do is you have to, when you do play them, you be organised and you take your opportunities. And Chris, they did that exemplary well.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the stats here. 3 shots, 3 on target, and 2 goals. You don't get more clinical than that. You do not get more efficient than that. And that's exactly what you've got to do. As you say, it was a big test for Lincoln. They're going up against a side that's played in the Championship last season, and in themselves have a lot of togetherness. Let's not forget that. I mean, the way they set up last season, they almost defied odds in that they almost stayed up. So this was a real test for Lincoln, and they've come out the other side with flying colours. It's really impressive for me.
Both sides have lovely quality on the ball, lovely. I wouldn't say depth because I know Lincoln don't have that much depth, but they still do have quality to bring on. Andrade and Akinde came off the bench. Ellis Chapman's a young player with a lot going for him as well. So, but I know Danny Cowley he wants to try and get a couple more players in, and I think he probably will achieve that before the end of the window. Whether or not they've got the money for it, I mean, he clearly says they haven't. But if he can keep those players fit, I always maintain you don't necessarily need huge depth if you just got a very good sort of starting 11, maybe 12 or 13 players, and they've got that for sure. I have to say I was impressed as well with Rotherham's squad. I think they've got a good team. So these two will be battling, I think, at the right end of the table come the end of the season. Whether Lincoln will reach the dizzy heights that we predicted in our preview pod remains to be seen. Of course, people do take those very seriously, but it's a bit of fun. So, but I do enjoy seeing how they turn out. MK Dons, Chris, they got their season off to a start finally a week later than everyone else, and they got a 1-0 win. Not surprising, really. I think the way they play, they're very difficult to break down. Shrewsbury probably will feel they deserved a point, and that's something that Jonathan Harry said on Twitter as well. So, what are your thoughts? MK Dons, we predict them to have a solid season. I think they'll do just that.
Yeah, I think, as you say, that they were disappointed to sort of wait this long to get their season going, and it took 93 minutes this week to get their season going. But they were certainly very rugged yesterday. As you said before, difficult to break down, and you know we have said that sort of Shrewsbury might struggle a little bit this season, but you've got to go up against them, and they've held Shrewsbury off well, and they've snatched a goal when they get the opportunity.
Very fortunate strike. Well, I mean, I think it was Ebanks Landell sort of headed it past his own keeper, so really it was a bit of bad luck. It
was an own goal, really, wasn't it? It was, but you know, the thing is, he's put. It proves the worth of just taking a shot. I mean, it was similar with I think it was the Lincoln game actually, where he just puts a low hard cross in and it ends up in the back of the net. And the thing is, so many teams don't take those chances. Whereas if you just go for it, put a cross in, you'll get something out of it.
Yeah, the sort of fundamentals of football, isn't it, is you need to create opportunities to score to win games. And if you don't shoot and you don't put the ball in dangerous areas, and there's a number of teams, and we'll come to them in a minute for our next one, who don't do it regularly enough, that
if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the raffle.
Yeah, exactly. And it's such a basic thing, but maybe it's something that we can write down on a team. In fact, maybe, where's Jack Ross's email? I've got it here somewhere. But he needs to learn to do that for Sunderland, because of course they got another 1-1 draw. And they'll take that probably at Ipswich, because that's going to be a pretty difficult place to get a point this season. But
it's the nature, isn't it?
It's the performance, isn't it? And
there's talk that apparently fans were fighting like Sunderland fans were fighting each other in the stands because they're so divided on Jack Ross.
Yeah, that's really pathetic if that's true. Like, I understand that people will have different opinions. It comes to fisticuffs in the stands, though, whether it's a physical fight or just verbal disagreements, I don't know. But firstly, though, Luke Garbutt, seriously, I mean, I should diss players more often. I think Ipswich fans must be loving the fact that I thought he was rubbish, and he's gone there and he scored their 2 goals already this season. So
looked very good apparently as well.
Yeah, I think, well, he's playing further forward. Just don't play him at left back is what I'd say. Because maybe he was unfit, but he just was awful for Oxford last season, especially in that position. I mean, he came off before half time, so maybe he picked up a knock. I don't know, but he had a nasty injury that seemed to really curtail his career, and he's done well. I mean, maybe players fit some clubs better than others, and he seems to have done that really well. But I think Paul Lambert seemed really frustrated that they didn't get the 3 points he felt their performance deserved. Jack Ross will be absolutely loving the fact they got away with it, because although they had even possession, I mean, you know, they certainly didn't create anything at all. It was a sort of languid, lazy performance. Like you just said,
you've got to ask real questions of him, because we spent a lot of last season defending him. You know, he needed time to gel. He needed, Sunderland needed a settled setup. But it appears that Sunderland haven't learned from the mistakes of last season. They're still not clinical enough. At times they looked really shaky at the back. Even they had I can't remember his name, quite a young lad at left wing back, which brings me on to my next point. Why are they playing a 3-5-2 when they don't have natural wing backs?
Yeah, why are they? Look, they've got Maguire and Grigg, who came off the bench. I mean, Maguire should be in that team. I mean, maybe I'm biased, I'm an Oxford fan, but he's such a good player and a creative player. And yes, he will frustrate you at times, but you need players like that in a team. You have.
Why can't they use Will Grigg either? Why can't they figure out how to use him?
Yeah, no, look, I actually said, I heard someone say, a Sunderland fan say, that is the club too big for Will Grigg?
No.
What?
Absolutely not. He scores everywhere he goes. He's a natural goal scorer, and I find it incredible that he doesn't get the supply that he needs. I find it absolutely astonishing.
Well, they haven't got any other good players to supply him. Oh, well, apart from George Dobson. Oh, and Aidan McGeady, of course.
They've got.
And Lyndon Gooch. Oh, and Maguire.
It's an incredible team.
Yeah.
it is it's. I find it so frustrating that they just cannot figure out how to use the best striker in the league. I'm sorry, there's no way Will Griggs should be anywhere near League One. And the fact
he's a very good player, and I think if he was at Coventry, he'd probably have a hatful of goals week in, week out, and I think that's the difference. And if he was, for example, if he played at Barnsley last season, my goodness me, it would have been frightening.
Yeah.
But we said it last week. Watch how Wigan played. Watch how Griggs been used in the past, and I don't know why it's so hard to figure out. Yeah, he's had a slow start, but the fact that I think it was on the Wiseman Say podcast. I heard someone suggest that the club's too big for him. I mean, I've never heard. I mean, no offence. I mean, that's a very good podcast, but that's a silly comment in my opinion.
I mean, Wigan are not a small club.
No, I mean, there's no such thing as a player is a player who will do. I mean, he'll do well if he's played in a system that suits his style.
I mean, I sort of get the point in as much as some players might struggle with the weight of pressure that comes with playing.
But Griggs played at a high level.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think he knows how to play for big teams. I'm surprised actually that he's not really had a chance in the Premier League before. So to see him in League One struggling in a team which, at least on paper, has some of the best creative midfielders, it's truly astonishing.
Yeah, it is. A throwback to the 90s, Portsmouth played Tranmere at Fratton Park. This was such a regular fixture in my childhood that it was great to see it back on the fixture list. Portsmouth, fairly comfortable win in the end, but a great travelling support. Over 600 Tranmere fans made the long trip down to the south coast. And on the whole, I think they'll probably feel their side competed well, but Portsmouth have a lot of quality, and I think you're starting to see Ronan Curtis, Marcus Harness, get into gear, and they'll be very, very dangerous going through the season. Great strike by Ben Close. We know he can do that because he seems to have a penchant for hitting brilliant strikes from really far out. Doesn't like close-ups.
Yeah, I mean, and the camera angle from the highlights, I wasn't keen on it for much of the footage, but for that goal, it was just sublime.
Yeah, the camera angle's always weird at Fratton Park. Maybe, I don't know why they sort of have a camcorder at knee height, but it's just the way the ground is. It needs, obviously, a little bit of updating, potentially. But the fact that they brought on Marquez and Pittman, that's outrageous.
They're on the bench.
That's outrageous. I mean, Oxford finally signed another striker, but that is not... I mean, there should be rules about, like, maybe dock them some points for having too good a bench. I don't know.
Can they donate one of them to Oldham?
Yeah, donate your strikers, yeah. Start a charitable trust where good teams have to lend players rather than solidarity payments. That might be quite interesting. Yeah. Can we borrow... well, I mean, when you see the money that was spent on the last day of the Premier League transfer window, it does make you laugh. I mean, 40 million for Iwobi.
Yep. How bad are Manchester United's owners? I mean, they only spent 130 million. It's just, I can't think of any other football club in England that's got it as hard as them.
Yeah, really hard. It's outrageous, really. I mean, I'm sure we could probably have a charity match to raise some funds for the...
Yeah, maybe Bury fans would be willing to help out.
Yeah, but because obviously they know a group of hard up fans when they see it, don't they?
Yeah.
And all those...
Help the neighbours out.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a tiny little ground that looks like it's falling apart, and they haven't spent much money on the centre-back this season. So
no, they've not overpaid for anyone.
No, they haven't. Yeah, because Wan-Bissaka is worth £50 million, despite the fact that he was awful at the under 20 Euros. But there you go.
And Harry Maguire, I mean, every day of the week I'd be paying 85 million.
Yeah, well, apparently he's got a gold-plated skull or something. So. I mean, yeah, a good player. I have to say, my wife will back me up on this, but I kept sort of banging the drum about Harry Maguire for years, and he's become the player that everyone who saw him play knew he would. Wonderful
I did
player.
like when he joined United, he put a series of pictures up on his Twitter account, and one of them was him playing against Oldham. And someone pointed out in that game, they dropped a 2-goal lead to lose 3-2 to us at Sheffield United, and he got sent off in the last minute. And that was the picture he chose.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he's sort of dissolved that memory from his mind. But back to the weekend, back to the football. Burton Albion went to Gillingham. Steve Evans still not able to cure the Priestfield blues that's there. I don't know what you can do really for Gillingham. I mean, they haven't had a good home record for quite some time. Burton looked for a while like they were in trouble, but 2 quick goals. Broadhead, by the way, what an exciting player he looks. I think he's on loan from Everton, and that's a terrific bit of business by Burton if he continues in that vein. Now, obviously, one game, don't want to get carried away too much, but he comes with a very good reputation from the under-23s at Everton. His goals were brilliantly taken. One was a sort of a striker's poacher's effort, the other one was just class. So. But Gillingham fans, be interested to hear what you made of the overall performance. I'll look forward to watching Gills in the Blood's sort of review video of this, because it doesn't seem. It seems like obviously Tom Eve's gone. Are they gonna be clinical enough? Are they going to create enough? Are they going to be able to turn the tide of sort of poor home form? And I've seen it with lots of clubs. They go through these spells at home where they struggle. Maybe there's added pressure there.
We've had a 10-year run of it, so.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, well, yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's what I worried about with Gillingham, though, is where are they going to get the goals from? Because they've clearly got quality in the team, but they relied so heavily on Eves last season for the goals. And
Brandon Hanlon will probably score a few. I mean, he should have probably equalised. He dragged a shot wide near the end, I think, or around the hour mark. I can't remember when it was. I saw it on the highlights. So I think they might be all right. I mean, obviously, let's remember that Gillingham had 8 home debutants in that team.
Yeah.
So this is a team very much. It's new. It's literally still got the cellophane wrap on it. So it's going to take a little bit of time. And I don't like using the word gel, but there is a certain amount of time it does take for a side to play to their strengths and to their best football. So, but yeah, very good result for Burton. I think that's a team that gets hardly any mentions, probably because people think if we talk about Burton, we're not going to get any traction because they've got not many fans. But in fact, they deserve a lot of credit for the way the club is run.
Really well run club, yeah.
Yeah, the way they play their football as well. Fleetwood as well, a team with not the biggest fan base, but a solid victory against AFC Wimbledon, who a little bit concerning start for them. Obviously not the easiest fixtures, Rotherham and Fleetwood, but a 2-1 win for the Cod Army, and they'll be quietly pleased with that, because a win against Peterborough on the opening day, then beating a side who on their day Wimbledon are very, very tough to beat, and I think that's what they'll have to aim to do this season, be just tough to beat. But I think there's a nice squad there at Fleetwood. We sort of always mention them as dark horses each season because they've actually got, for the size of team they are, they've got a very good squad. What do you think of them so far?
I've been impressed with them, yeah. They've got a centre-half I very much admire in Peter Clark, who I think will keep them strong at the back. And I think what I've taken away from that result yesterday, Wimbledon are very good on the road. I think this is their first loss on the road since February. And as you say, they're difficult to beat. And they took their chances when they got them with Madden and Morris. I mean, Madden, a couple of minutes before he scored, had a bit of a howler and missed a sitter. But overall, I thought they were effective in how they approached the game. They managed to. I think what's quite easy when you're playing Wimbledon is you can let Wimbledon dictate and play their game. And Fleetwood didn't let them play their game, which I think was impressive. So I'm quietly impressed with them at the moment, and I still think they're very much playoff contenders.
Yeah, early days, but they certainly got the quality in that squad to be playoff contenders, as have Blackpool under Simon Grayson. Absolutely demolished Southend United, who we had concerns about going into the season. Still, those concerns are very much there.
Yeah.
Really poor from Southend. The goals they looked slow, actually. They looked like a team.
They looked unfit.
That's it, yeah. They looked like they couldn't keep up. They were running in treacle. And I feel really sorry for the fans, because obviously they turn up the first home game of the season against, albeit a very good Blackpool side with a very good manager, and they're absolutely done. And
they had 30 minutes to really give it a go when her husband got sent off. And all right, I know Cox has got a goal in that time period, but they didn't really change the way they played.
I think they need another outlet for goals. Because
is it less the outlet for goals and more the creation of chances?
Well, they did. Yeah, they did. We put out that graph, didn't we, at the end of last season that showed that they created the least chances per 90 minutes of any club in the division last season.
I do say that, but I've just got the stats up, and actually they had 18 shots, 4 on target. So perhaps you're right on this one.
Well, yeah. I mean, shot data though. I mean, it's very hard to tell unless you look at the deeper data, isn't it, about the quality of the shots that they're taking. But I don't know. Blues fans would love to hear your thoughts because it's not a great start to the season. I watched the game against Coventry and they battled hard. They looked pretty good. They didn't create a lot. They had a good couple of chances sort of near the end of the game, but again they were slow to get going in that one. And you can't start slowly in this division because of course there's a lot of good teams. And Blackpool, let's talk about them briefly because credit where credit's due. They've got an excellent squad, lovely depth. Yeah. Soleil Kai is exciting. Obviously, we know that Delfonso is a striker who'll score goals, and also Nangele, who I'm a big fan of his. He's very difficult to play against because he's so physical. And though I have to say, as well, the backline: Turton, Edwards, Tilt, Husband. I mean, Husband, what are you thinking? That is the most pointless red card I've seen.
Well, no, I'm sorry. That player was in a really dangerous position.
Yeah, of course, because he might have nutmegged the corner flag. And hit it in from.
I'd be impressed if he could nutmeg a corner flag.
Well, I've seen Ronaldinho do it, so it can be. But indeed, it was just recklessly stupid, and I bet managers they train these guys all week, and then they see someone do that. And luckily for Blackpool and Simon Grayson, and indeed for Husband himself, they'd got the game in the bag by then. But. Oh, just what was he thinking? What was he thinking? Terrible. If you haven't seen it, go and have a watch of the highlights of this game. And if you rate the red card of 1 to 10 out of completely pointless things to do, this comes as an 11. It was ridiculous. Great squad though. Blackpool will be. I'm actually considering going up there next weekend. We'll see how that pans out. But Oxford go up there next weekend, and I think that'll be a really tough test. And let's move on to Oxford because a 1-0 win over Peterborough. Who were rubbish. I have to be honest, they were dreadful. They didn't really get going. You can see they've got quality in individuals because Ivan Toney had some lovely touches. Sariq Dembele, when he gets going, is very difficult to stop. But in terms of they look disjointed. They look really disjointed, and I think that's a concern because you've got a squad full of quality, but much like Sunderland, they're not being able to utilise that quality because they're not playing sort of. I don't know if they lack a plan, but I don't know what you think, Chris. But so far, those two results and pretty concerning.
Yeah, and it's. I mean, I said it last week, and perhaps it's true. So, Peterborough tend to like to play very well until the last couple of months of the season when they throw it away. So perhaps they're trying to mix it up and turn it around and start poorly, but go on a run for the rest of the season.
And still just miss out on the playoffs.
Yeah, well, it's just it is. Very concerning, and these were some of the concerns raised when Ferguson got given a contract at the end of last season, because obviously they were on a bad run then, and they've continued that form into the start of this season. And absolutely, sort of as I've joked, but seriously, they do need to start changing their fortune soon, otherwise they will miss out on the playoffs. And their squad is indicative of a side that should be absolutely dead set for the playoffs.
Yeah, great quality, but just not a joined up team. Issa was non-existent. I don't remember seeing him do a thing really, to be honest. As I say, Tony was impressive, but Rob Dickey and Mousinho were brilliant again for Oxford. Cadden is an excellent player, by the way. Really gives us some balance. I think if we were to sign one more player now, it would be a left back because Ruffles. Don't get me wrong, I love Josh Ruffles, but he's probably there's no depth at left back, and we lack a little bit of balance perhaps on that side of the pitch. Woodburn should have scored a second goal. Terrible miss. He's the kind of guy that I think will score and then get confident and be much, much better. But at the moment, he looks like a player who lacks that little bit of confidence, and that's a bit of a worry. But we did pick up Dan Agai, so we've got a third striker, so I'm happy in that respect. I know he may not be the finished article, but we need depth, we need bodies, and we've got that. And As for the 3-year contract or the extension of Carl Robinson's contract, I'll say it and be honest. I mean, I'm not necessarily his biggest fan, but everyone who listens to this podcast knows that I'm a big fan of giving managers time to build things and stability, and that's exactly what Oxford are trying to do. So fair play to the club. That's really nice to see. Now we can concentrate hopefully on bringing a side together that will go forward, a little bit like Lincoln, go forward as a group and develop as a group and become, extremely good football side. Whether or not we've got enough in this team to go up this season or to make the playoffs, who knows? But in the opening 2 performances, I'm very pleasantly surprised. So very good stuff there. Wycombe and Bristol Rovers, probably less said about this game the better. It was pretty dire stuff.
They played a game.
Yeah, it wasn't a good match actually at the men, and the fans will be a bit disappointed. But 0-0, Wycombe, solid start for them, going to Rovers and getting obviously a point and a win against a very crisis club like Bolton on the opening day of the season. That's good. Bristol Rovers slightly disappointed, of course, by their start, losing to Blackpool last week and not being able to pick up 3 points at home. Doncaster aside in transition, Chris. Rochdale returned home after that excellent victory over Tranmere, and they got a 1-1 draw. They left it late again. I think we're right in saying that we're probably not going to see a Doncaster side achieve what they did last year. Do you think what you've seen of them so far, that they're still good enough though to sort of challenge anywhere near the playoffs, or in the top half at least?
It's so hard to say, and I think how they progress with the transfer, I think they still need a couple of extra players. Personally, I think at the moment they look set for mid-table obscurity at this rate. Marcus, obviously, a very, very big loss for them. I mean, I'm not sure where they go from here. I'm not sure where they find their quality that would provide them the sort of season they had last season.
I think the transfer of Marquis has come a bit late as well for them to really
exactly
get that player in. Obviously, Baptiste got injured as well, so they always seem to have problems with centre-backs at Doncaster. I don't know whether that's true or not, but they do seem to have bad luck with injuries with their defenders, and that's a big loss. Baptiste is an experienced player, so he's gone. Blair came on to replace him, but yeah, you're right. Threadbare squad is probably a fair way to describe it. Rochdale, though, that's a decent first 2 games of the season, really.
Yeah, I mean that's a solid draw for them. They're showing a little bit of intent at least, and I think that's good. That's what they'll want. We've obviously touted them as a real risk of relegation this season, but they managed to get a win on their first game and a draw here. So they started off strongly, and they need to keep that going as long as they can. Cause I think they will. A point will come this season where they start to struggle.
Yeah, they're the kind of team, because of just the nature of their budget and the squad, that it won't take much to have a bit of a wobble, which causes them some real concern. Right, so that's League One. We won't look at the league tables. We refuse to do that at such an early stage.
I think it says so much.
Oh, it does. Yeah, it tells you everything.
Rochdale are definitely going to finish in the playoffs.
Yeah, actually, in fact, we should screenshot this and see how it compares.
That's a good idea.
Week 46. Let's jump down though into League Two.
League Two.
And the early kick-off, Grimsby versus Bradford. I have to say, I've been very impressed with what I've seen of Grimsby so far. I still believe they need maybe a creative player, and certainly a centre-back, because they don't have much depth. And I think I'm right in saying they had an injury to one of their centre-backs early in this game. So they're lacking a little bit of depth, but very impressed with the 4-3-3 system that Michael Jolly's employing. I have to say that James Hansen offers them something that they really lacked last season. In the games I saw them play several times. They didn't have any focal points on to keep the ball in the final third and bring others into play. It sort of came back too much, and that's what you get when you have players like Cook as your striker. But this season, very impressed with how they've started. Obviously, Hessenthaler, Whitehouse and Clifton looking very strong in midfield. And yeah, I just think if they can get maybe a little bit more depth either at full-back or at centre-back, then they've got a very good squad going forward. Bradford, though, Chris, what do you think of them? Because that was, again, I'm not convinced by this system of having Vaughan, Donaldson and Doyle all in the same lineup.
Well, I spoke very highly of them in our pre-season podcast, but I was trying to someone who's been to a couple of Bradford games, or the 2 Bradford games this season, and they're worried about them. They don't look like they have real promotion credentials. And I think you're right. I think I'm not sure why they are playing Doyle, Vaughan and Donaldson in the same team. I can't see how that's ever going to work, because they're just you've got to pick 2 of them to play together, I think.
I'd like to have Scannell on one wing and another winger on the other side, and really just get the balls into the box for the likes of Donaldson and Vaughan, and maybe Doyle can be sort of interchange with them. I'm not sure. It's almost like they were playing a diamond in the opening game.
It's weird.
Bradford fans will be able to tell us better because they watch the games. But
Vaughan and Donaldson, you've hit the nail on the head. You supply them from the wings, whereas the likes of Doyle you supply through the middle. I think he's a proper sort of fox in the box, poacher sort of player. He's wasted in this system.
Yeah, it's early days, 2 games, but I'm the 1-1 draws, and obviously the opening day draw against Cambridge, who are not at all a good side. Cambridge look like they'll be reliant very much on a sort of a defensive organisation to keep them well clear of trouble. But I'm not yet convinced by Bradford from the first 2 games of what I've seen. I think they've got a good squad, but again, we've seen that with other sides. It doesn't mean that much. But really, really hoping Grimsby do have a good season. Obviously, James McKeown, a friend of the pod, really, really great guy. He'll be pleased that. He had no chance with the goal, but apart from that, I think his defence helped him out, and they did a good job yesterday. Walsall and Forest Green 1-1. That's I think Walsall have started in a pretty solid manner. When they saw that they were trailing, I feared for them a little bit, but yeah, Darryl Clark is making Walsall what we expect them to be, which is a team that really determined, battles hard, and is hard to beat, Chris.
Yeah, and by the sounds of it, they dominated the first half and were unlucky to go behind, which is impressive because we've obviously spoke highly of Forest Green, and I still think they'll do well this season. So that's exactly the sort of battling performance they want to put in, especially if they're to go above where we predicted them finishing. Overall very, very good, and as you say, they've battled well and were difficult to break down. I mean, it says a lot that the only goal Forest Green scored was a penalty.
Yeah, that's very impressive defensively from Walsall's point of view. I'd like Hardy obviously scored the equaliser, but I actually think they've done some very interesting business quite quietly as well. Colin Lavery, I think he's exciting. Holden as well could potentially be very, very good. So those are the guys I think might have a big say in this Sadler season. They're young, hungry and talented players. Though Lavery, he's not as young as you think. He's been around a bit longer, but he's a good pickup, and maybe now, after years of going out on loan all the time, this can be a move that settles him down. But again, like Forest Green, it'll be interesting to see how they score goals and where their goals come from this season, because obviously they were reliant very much over the last few years on Christian Doidge for those goals. He's gone, and that's always difficult to replace. But Cambridge and Newport 0-0. I won't say too much about this game because it wasn't particularly good. I think Newport were the better side for sure. Cambridge, really worried, to be honest, about them. I don't see any quality. That's the problem. I don't see the quality going forward that they're going to need to survive. Colin Calderwood's a good manager. He was a good defender in his day as well. So that's something that they've got to take away. 2 games, 2 clean sheets. But it doesn't surprise me at all that they've scored no goals, Chris.
No, me neither. We spoke a lot in that they're both lacking strikers and they're lacking creative midfielders. And actually, I got a lot of stick for saying that their midfield would struggle, but I think they're absolutely showing that it's threadbare.
Yeah, George Maris did sign a new contract. Quite surprised actually that they kept hold of him. Wesley Houlihan was so impressed with Cambridge that he moved 3,000 miles away.
Well, I said I think he's I suggested that he might not be able to give enough to Cambridge, somewhat given his age, and I got entirely slated for that. No, he's going to be our star player this season. Yeah,
and he's off. Yeah, I think if he had stayed, he would. He's class still, no doubt about it. I don't know how. it would have been interesting because how would this system fit him in? Because I think when you have Wes Hoolahan playing in any team, especially at this level, you have to sacrifice some of your defensive solidity. So with Cambridge being so reliant on that, that might not have always worked.
I don't think he would have. I don't think he would have worked in this Cambridge side, and I don't think he would have worked well enough in League Two. I just don't think it would have been a right fit.
Yeah, I think it's a very physical and fast-paced division, and when you're 37 and you're used to playing at, where you're the man who gets on the ball and has a bit of space, it might have been quite tricky. Result of the day, well, I don't know. There's two results that stand out, but Crawley beating Salford. All those people who, to be fair, weren't necessarily Salford fans, but there's so many touting Salford to walk this division. Do me a favour.
Real wake up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's disrespectful to the other 23 clubs at this level to say that just because you come up from, and you don't even win the National League, let's make that perfectly clear. They went up via the playoffs. That you're going to walk this division because you can spend more money on wages than everyone else. I mean,
nobody walks this division.
No, I mean, well, Lincoln kind of made it look easy and Luton got over, but neither of them had it completely their own way over the last couple of seasons.
They had to really battle for it, though. It wasn't a walkover, though. They had to. They got promoted because they really thought about their tactics and really thought about how to approach games. They by no means walked it.
Well, this is a wake-up call anyway. Wonderful performance from Crawley. Gabriele Cioffi had a lot of critics. We were sceptical about him, of course, because you can only go on what you see at the end of last season, which was pretty poor. But he went for a lot of signings from non-league, a lot of guys who are probably unknown to those who don't follow the non-league scene. And they've come in. Ferguson is one of them who scored the goal yesterday. He looks like he could be a good player. Dulwich Hamlet fans are very, very big on him and think he deserves his chance in the league. They've got Ollie Palmer, Ashley Nederson, of course, are struggling with fitness, but Crawley have got some decent players now and a lot of depth for competition for places. So I'd like to see how they do going forward. But that's a fantastic victory, a clean sheet as well. Not a bad performance last weekend. I watched that back against Carlisle either. So that's some big positives. Macclesfield, Chris, beat Leyton Orient 3-0. Didn't see that one coming. I mean, they again, I have to say what's going on with the finances because, I mean, some players from last season, I believe, are still owed money. So it doesn't seem right that they've registered all these new players. But again,
I find it incredible that they're allowed to sign players whilst they're still owing wages to players from last season, actually. I think
the EFL are letting people down there.
The EFL, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, you should be placed on a transfer embargo until you can pay off your outstanding debts to previous players. There's no other company in the entire country that would get away with not paying its staff in the way that football clubs do.
Yeah, and then still bringing in new ones at the same time.
Yeah, it's outrageous. I mean, imagine if you were writing articles all week, they decided not to pay you, but then they were bringing in 5 new journalists to also write.
Yeah,
I find it incredible.
It's not right, is it? But
and this is what we're saying when we see crisis clubs in Bury and Bolton. How were they allowed to get into this situation? Well, because they were allowed to keep signing players.
Yeah, there needs to be a really firm hand and a very firm handle on this, and it doesn't seem to be happening. But a fantastic victory for Macclesfield. Archibald looks a good pickup from Brentford. Vassell's come in and I think so far done well. He played for Port Vale last season. Mixed reviews from Vale fans who I spoke to. I think Harris is a wonderful midfielder, a very, very good signing. He was a good, solid player for Tranmere last season in the side that got promoted. So that one was very impressive. Gomez as well. I was surprised they picked him up because he's got a bit of pace and showed a little glimpse of ability in his spell at Notts County last season, on loan from Nottingham Forest, of course. So they have got a decent squad. I think Leyton Orient will admit they had a bad game and they'll go back a little bit disappointed. Mansfield 2-2 again, Chris. They were 2-0 down, came back to 2-2. Silly sending off again. John Dempster.
It's another quality sending off.
Yeah, just waste of time in it when players do that. There's no need for it. But Morecambe, showed something that they perhaps didn't last week, and that was the ability to put the ball away. They'll be pleased with that. Although letting a 2-goal lead slip is never fun.
They're doing a Morecambe though, aren't they? They're just showing that they've got enough for this league, just enough, but enough.
Yeah. I mean, that was a great finish from Alessandra.
What a ball! What a pass!
Yes, I've got to analyse this game later actually, and I will be sitting down and logging all these sort of data points and stuff for it. And I think that will be how to rate that assist. Brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, he's 40. Ellison is 40 and he's still incredible.
Yeah, he's a great professional, great player. Morecambe 2-0 up inside 21 minutes. Obviously, they didn't end up holding on. Maynard and Rose on the score sheet for Mansfield, and those two players, just looking at those two players' names on the score sheet, does show the quality.
Yeah, there's absolutely there's nothing to be upset about, I think, in losing a 2-goal lead against Mansfield.
No, but I'd be interested to know what Mansfield fans think of the opening two performances as a whole. Is it a case of just getting used to this new system? It looks very much like the sort of wing back system they played under Flitcroft, which I'm not necessarily convinced is the best one for the squad they've got. But I don't know. It'd be interesting to get Stags fans' opinions, because always more insightful when you go week in, week out than when you're sort of trying to analyse highlights and stuff. Before we go on to the Swindon game, let's talk Oldham, because you took on. Well, our Crew fans will want to talk about their win, and it wasn't the most impressive game of the weekend, I don't think, but you're really worried, and we'll put out your vlog later that you did, which, in it, I've watched it, you do express some real concerns about whether or not there's two worse teams than Oldham, basically, this season. Well,
that's the real concern, because I'm looking at Crew, and I don't want to be disrespectful to Crew. They put in a good shift. They were creating chances pretty well in the second half, especially. But they weren't anything great. Very beatable, and we didn't have the quality. It wasn't even. I mean, there are certain players you can look at and say they weren't up to scratch. They maybe weren't putting full effort in, but a lot of those players I thought were actually putting a shift in. They were really playing to their full potential, and their full potential is dreadful.
Oh dear.
I mean, it's just we showed glimpses in the first half of having a bit about us going forwards, but without David Weecher in the side, we had very little at the back. We had Sonny Seffel and Jamie Stott. Now, Jamie Stott, I like. He's a young defender who's still learning, and he's clearly got talent. And playing alongside someone like Weecher will do him good. Sonny Seffel, I can't talk about him again. He's just, I don't understand how he's getting paid to do this. Midfield was non-existent. Crew, fair play to them, took full advantage of that. They dominated the midfield, especially Green, really dominated there. And the goal from Porter was very good, and he obviously scored the penalty and got some very nice chance from his fans of his former club. It's worrying times. I think Crew will be, top half, mid-table, based on that performance alone, and obviously we're only 2 games in, but worrying stuff for Oldham.
Indeed, worrying stuff. And it's not just, still stuff going off the pitch, it's farcical.
You've got this ongoing thing with the North Stand, which I won't go into too much. There's an article up on the website about it. But, the kiosks within that stand weren't open. The lights within the concourses were turned off at one point, while the toilets has been ripped out. This is a pretty much new facility. It's only been open a couple of years. And season ticket holders in that stand are rightfully outraged that they can't even buy food at half time.
It's embarrassing.
It is utterly embarrassing. And it's really getting to the point where fans, myself included, are really, really frustrated with the ownership of this club, because you go into games and it's not your club anymore. I don't feel a connection with any of the players. I don't feel a connection with the manager. And the manager might be perfectly good, but he's not running anything. He's taking charge of training, but we all know who's signing the players, and in the ear of the manager picking players. It's depressing to go, and the only reason I'm really going at the moment is to write a match report. I don't feel enjoyment going.
Yeah, I felt that at Oxford several times in the past. It's one of those things of sporting club duty calls rather than enjoyment, but you do it nonetheless. But yeah,
I've got people I've been going with for 10, 11 years, and they're not going anymore.
Yeah, that's sad. That's really sad. But I don't know. Things will run their course in whatever way they do, and it doesn't look good at the moment. Stevenage, let's move on, because Stevenage got another defeat, a little bit better. Exeter left it late, and it was a quality goal that won it. A little bit concerned about Stevenage, though.
Very concerned. They looked so poor against Salford last week, and going off the highlights on this game, they didn't look much better.
No, they don't look like they've got... I mean, Ilias Chair was huge for them. Like, that creativity, that ability to turn something into something from nothing, it's not there at the moment, and it's only early days. But I think Reese, who's a Stevenage fan, was saying Taylor is going to be one of those most frustrating kind of players that does so good when he gets the ball, and then his finishing is terrible and his end product is not good enough. And it's one of those players, isn't it? But Exeter will be pleased. That's a 3 points for them. Second clean sheet, and solid start. So not much else to say about that at the moment. We'll keep an eye on how they do going through the season. Swindon 3-2 win over Carlisle. It looks like Swindon will be a very exciting attacking force. Carlisle gave them a good game, to be fair, but I think it's clear which one of these two, based on that performance, will be challenging sort of nearer the top end of the table. Swindon could be a really exciting team to watch. They've got a very good first team 11. I think their depth is not bad either. Isgrove looks like he's going to be an important player on that right hand side. Keshi Anderson maybe has found a manager and a system that will get the best out of him finally.
And the last time Swindon won their first 2 games in the season, they got promoted.
Yeah, I saw that stat. That's interesting. That we'll have to see if that bears fruit again. But very exciting start for Swindon this season. I do like the way that they're set up. They'll be a bit disappointed, I think, with the goals they conceded. Obviously, they'll want to do better than that. But
I mean, this is the Richard Wellens way, though. He plays expansive football. It leaves you vulnerable at the back. But if you're scoring more goals than the opposition, it doesn't matter if you're vulnerable at the back.
No, indeed, and it's exciting time to be a Swindon fan, I think, under a manager that will play that kind of very quick break football. They press high. They've got Kane Woolery as well. Jerry Yates, he looks like he's really enjoying being the main man at a team that plays football that suits his ability and his style. So, yeah, great stuff. Going to watch carefully how they do. Carlisle fans, I don't know. I think they're just slightly short, and that they'll be disappointed with the 3 goals they conceded. No doubt about that. They were well aware of the dangers, if you read what Stephen Presley was saying before the game. But, there we go. Plymouth, another side, of course, picking up maximum points so far. A 1-0 win over Colchester. A good showing from Colchester. I think they'll be disappointed not to have picked up a win in their opening 2 games. Obviously, the home game more frustrating than this one necessarily. But Plymouth, exactly like we expect with Ryan Lowe, playing the kind of football that's exciting. And going forward, they'll be a really good club. I think they'll be one of them right up there. But that's important to grind out results against sides of quality, and Colchester certainly have that. Port Vale and Northampton drew 1-1 in a game that perhaps didn't have as much quality, but Port Vale fans really unhappy with the referee in this one. I saw so many tweets from Vale fans suggesting that he had a bad game. Northampton slow to get started, and eventually did get back in it and get a point, but Keith Curle still takes some convincing about what he's doing there this season. The other game I wanted to give a little bit more focus to, and I know we're running short on time somewhat, but Cheltenham Town back at home and back in impressive form, Chris.
It's a magnificent result. I didn't see them getting 4 goals. I know we've played down Scunthorpe quite a lot. I think they've got a very threadbare squad again. Another one that still needs to recruit more, I think.
Well, they've got a lot of injury problems, but they've got a massive squad. But I still maintain, and I had these conversations on Twitter after our pre-season podcast, and it's quite funny, the people who were disagreeing with me are now tweeting out pensions of doom, saying that we either sign players now or we're going to be relegated. I'm like, you're 2 games in, and
Yeah, I mean,
just 2 games ago, before the start of the season, they were saying that they're going to be promoted essentially in the playoffs, and now it's 2 games in, and the reality is kicking in.
You have a wake up though when you come down to League Two. I mean, it was the same with Oldham. You come down, you go, oh, this league's rubbish. We'll walk it, and then you get a couple of games in and go, yeah, but they're very good at being horrible against you.
Yeah, it's very hard to. I have to say, Cheltenham's quality in that second half was clearly there to see. I really
3 goals in 5 minutes.
Yeah, Charlie Raglan. Great to see Raglan get on the score sheet. We shouldn't have let him go. I still maintain, but they've got a Dye who's an exciting player. Broom, I mean, he is going to be, I think, a player that plays at a high level. They signed him to a longer term contract, but he is a very, very good player. Playing, I think, in the centre now of this sort of 5-3-2 or 3-5-2, whatever it is. But they're not going to be a side that's easy to beat. Max Sheaf, interesting to see what Cheltenham fans think of his first performance. Gavin Riley obviously coming in because there were suspensions to Varney and Ince. I think Ince has had a ban increased from the 3 games due to the nature of his red card at Leyton Orient. But Colclough is the leading light, I think, for Scunthorpe. Obviously, he's still coming back to fit and has only played about 15 minutes of this one. But they play a system that I think needs change. I mean, what worries me for Scunthorpe is their back line look awfully vulnerable, especially on the counter-attack. McGeehee and Butler don't have much pace, and if you don't protect them and if they play too high a line, they were left horribly exposed. So,
have they made a mistake in letting Burgess go? I
don't know if their fans would go as far as to say that.
Well, I mean, I didn't particularly rate him at Oldham, but I mean that defence doesn't look good to me.
It looks low. I mean, I know Clark and Nettlehey. I don't know how you pronounce. I know
the one you mean.
The left back who was at Rochdale last season. He's good actually, and he played quite well against Swindon. But the centre backs look very vulnerable to anyone with pace, and of course there's quite a few pacey strikers in this League Two division this season. So it's going to be a tough one. And Paul Hurst, of course, is a very good manager.
Yeah, it's.
I don't know. I mean, obviously he had Colclough and Hamill on the bench to start this game.
It's an interesting one for Scunthorpe. It'll be interesting to see what happens, as you say, when those injured players are back in contention.
Yeah, I look at the list though. I'm not that enamoured by any of them in particular. So
yeah,
I don't know. They might have to bring in some players, but they've got a bloated squad as it is. I think it's just the sign of a team that's been trying. I mean, they had a very disjointed season last season with a couple of managers and all bringing their own players, and that's how you get to this stage. But it is what it is, and that is something that Scunthorpe will have to figure out very, very quickly, because it's a difficult season once you've started poorly, and they have aspirations of playoffs, at least, I thought, from what their fans were saying after our preview pod. But there you go. That is another podcast finished. I hope you've enjoyed it. As I say, if you could give this a retweet, share and spread it around amongst your fans and peers, that would be really appreciated. Chris, been great to have you on here again, and cheer up. It's 2 games only.
Well, it's Oldham, so it's just the boiling over of several years of discontent.
Yeah, yeah. Oxford sort of had theirs with their previous owner when we got relegated, and football's cyclical, but sometimes
just
you don't want to see
one good season, just one.
Yeah, one good season. Yeah, that's what we all stay watching our clubs for, just that one good season. Interesting stuff. Oldham. I don't know. I think people out there, they're a club that just people looking from the outside like, what is going on there?
They should make a documentary.
Yeah, it'd be much more interesting for Netflix to go to Oldham than probably Sunderland this season.
Although they might struggle to record because the electricity might have been shut off that day or something.
Yeah, dark concourses and stuff like that. Yeah. Might just turn it into a horror movie.
Well, it is that.
Thank you everyone for listening to this podcast. As I say, we'll be back next week, but until then, enjoy your week. Goodbye.